What is up, guys? Zan from the Zan Madden YouTube channel, and you may have heard of the phrase Mable coverage, whether it be from a football perspective or maybe even a Madden perspective. And you may think that the version of Mable coverage that you see in Madden is what is actually called in real life. I'm just going to spoil this up front. In real life, Mable coverage is typically a coverage that is cover 3 based. Sometimes you'll see it kind of run as a cover 6 in the save-in defense, where you're going to be playing man coverage on the backside or the weak side of the passing formation, and then on the strong side of the passing formation, which is basically the side with more receivers, you are going to flood that side with zones of varying depths.
Who knew?
And this term, Mable, has kind of taken over the Madden community to take on a slightly different meaning, in which we essentially view this as having multiple depths of flat zone on the sideline for the purpose of taking away flooding concepts. So the term Mable has kind of taken its own life in Madden, but it is typically viewed that way or thought of that way, meaning just having a curl flat and a regular flat zone set to varying depths for the purpose of strong or weak floods. Now, the phrase double Mable is something that is very, very popular. A lot of players love this style of defense in Madden because it forces everything inside to the user. And that is going to be the focus of today's YouTube video. So if you guys could do me a favor, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, drop a comment below. Let me know what type of content you want to see here on the channel. Is there a blitz you're having trouble with? Is there a coverage you want to beat? Is there something in terms of the run game that maybe you're lacking? Let me know below, help push this video out in the algorithm. Otherwise, let's get into the tip, how to run Mable coverage. Now, the truth is, with Mable coverage, there are a few things that you want to pay attention to. This is going to be a zone drop based defense. So with this, it doesn't matter whether or not your match coverage is set to default or on. With this, anytime you're running zone coverage drops, they will supersede your match rules, meaning that if I have any of these settings, hooks, curl flats, or flats set to any value, match is off, okay? But typically speaking, when people run Mable coverage, they are going to choose their flat zones. With the flat zone, you are going to be choosing a depth. Most players are going to choose anywhere from 25 to 30 yards. Now, one of the things that a lot of players don't know about this is that the flat zone, when it's set to a zone drop, you cannot have your flat zone in a press alignment. If your defensive back is too close to the line of scrimmage, they are going to end up backpedaling so slow that they're not going to be able to get to the landmark that you set. So traditionally, the flat player is going to be in an off alignment when it comes to this defense. As it pertains to the curl flat in this particular defense, a lot of players are going to set either a 5 or sometimes a 10-yard depth for their curl flats. Just depending on what they want to do, sometimes you're going to notice that there's going to be intermediate sideline routes that get in between a 25 and a 5 or a 30 and a 5. They may drop this back to 10 just for the purpose of squeezing down that sideline window at the expense of maybe the quick throw to the flat being a little bit more successful. Okay, so just make sure you're paying attention to your tendencies of your opponent when you guys are on defense. But let's start off with most players' favorite setup, which is going to be a 25 and 5. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, your Mable style coverage is typically played as a cover 3 defense in real life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what a cover 3 Mable might look like from a Madden perspective. So this is going to be a situation where I would call, let's say, cover 3 buzz spy out of this dollar formation. I like this because not only do we have the slot corner and an outside corner, but we have a safety on that side, and we could really flood the sideline with zone while being able to call Mable coverage in terms of the way that it would typically be run in real life. So with this formation here, when we are talking about Mable coverage, we are typically saying we're going to be playing a cover 3, but we are going to flood the sideline with zones. Let's start off with flooding the sideline. So we've already got our curl flat assignment right here, but we are going to need to create a blue zone or our 25-yard depth. The best way that I would recommend doing this is taking your safety and putting him into a curl flat. This is going to leave you with 2 purple zones, but don't worry, we're going to change this up a fair amount. We are then going to shade our defense down. Now, again, shading has no impact. All we're doing is changing the color of the zones to get them so they're playing a different area of the field. Remember, our flat zones, the blue zones, they're playing 25 yards. But now we have a situation where both of those guys are in blue zones, and we don't want them in the same spot on the field. So we're going to go right back to our slot corner, and we're going to change him back into a curl flat. This is going to give us basically 3 depths of zone on the sideline. We're going to have our deep zone, which can run with any streak down the field. So he'll stay all the way over the top as far as any pull route's going to go. We're going to have our deep sideline zone set at a depth of 25 yards. So he's going to drop to the opposite, basically 35-yard line, and he'll stand in this area. And then you're going to have your 5 or 10-yard purple setting, which is going to hang out in this area. When you actually take a look at this post snap and you have all 3 of these players lined up on the sideline, it makes throwing the ball a little bit tougher in that area of the field. Now, as a result, from the defensive point of view, we obviously still have some work to do. Because this is a cover 3 defense, we need to close center field. You could do this with a variety of different players, although I would say safeties get to center field much better than linebackers. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my safety and I'm going to play him in center field. Now, I want to go ahead and move these guys back to their original spots here, so that way we can kind of explain what we're doing with the backside of this coverage. Remember where I said that Mable coverage in real life is typically going to be a coverage in which you have man on the backside. With Madden, obviously we know that man coverage on a running back is a little tough, but if you guys were going to play kind of a Maddenized version of cover 3 Mable, you essentially would say, okay, we're going to go man to man on this player, and we are going to go man to man on this player. And then our user would be this player. This is going to give us hook help to the inside, so we can kind of float into this area. We've got deep help over the top in the middle. And of course, like we know, everything is flowing to the passing strength, which is the right side of the formation. So that is essentially what a cover 3 Mable would look like as it pertains the best way to run it in Madden. Now, of course, the defensive coordinators in the YouTube comments are going to say, well, technically, yes, I understand this is not one-to-one to real life. There's also significant issues with the running back out of the backfield on this call as well, because if he runs a wheel, he is going to be able to kill his guy for a lob touchdown. So you guys will obviously have to worry about that as well. But again, focusing on the principle of the Mable coverage, we want to talk about how this is so incredibly effective against the flood, because that's what most Madden players do. So what we're going to do is we are just basically going to run this like cover 3 on the backside. I'm not going to make those man coverage assignment changes. But let's focus primarily on this flood. We've got essentially a sail concept. We've got the tight end going to the corner. We've got a runoff route down the sideline designed to pull any deep zone. And we've got a check down route underneath in the flat. When we actually run this combo against this Mable coverage, you're going to see that our 25-yard safety is going to get out into the sideline and be able to make a play, and that's going to be a very tight throw. Now, this is where I said that depending on what your opponent is doing, you're going to have to pay attention to your zone drops. You saw right there that with a little bit of time in the pocket, there is a small window, a very small window, for us to make that throw happen. If you are still getting corner routes in behind your 25-yard setting, you can go in and set a 30-yard setting on this, and this will help significantly. So we're going to go right back into that same call here, and we are going to basically set up the same defense and close center field. All right, so we are set up here. This is our Mable coverage, cover 3. We're going to set up our flood. And again, you're going to see here with Shannon Sharp on this corner route, that 30-yard player is going to be able to get back into that area a little bit better. Again, you know, higher zone coverage, pick artists, things like that, that's going to help significantly. It's important to note that if your safety is not getting over there on this play, you guys are going to be able to still utilize outside corners on this as well. If you guys wanted to, you could play this player right here, Cromartie, in a 30 or a 25-yard cloud. Now, the thing you need to remember is you don't want him in press alignment. The closest that he can really be and still impact a play is probably going to be about where he is right now. If you guys want to back him off into, you know, even further, you could do this with a universal setup. But again, with this, it's going to help him be right underneath this route. So that way, if you're struggling getting a safety to that, you could have a player right there that can definitely make this play happen. So that is your essential Mable coverage as it pertains playing, you know, the strong side of a formation. Now, I know I've been doing a lot of teaching here in this video. If this video appeals to you and you enjoy this style of tutorial content, make sure you guys check out my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg, where we're working very, very hard to keep you guys on top of the competitive meta, what pro players are doing, and how to counter it. You guys can unlock everything on the website. That's 6 offensive and defensive game plans and constant vault updates, along with Discord access, where we have lab sessions every week taking your questions about Madden and giving you guys those fine-tuned answers to help you improve your game for just $9.95. So make sure you guys go check it out. Now let's go ahead and discuss double Mable coverage, because double Mable coverage is essentially the I'm not letting you throw a corner route, throw in the middle of the field style of defense. So when you guys are typically facing a double Mable, they're going to be playing essentially purples at a short depth and blues at a deep depth with zones over the top on both sides of the field. This is a very, very popular coverage. You will see a lot of players main this out of a cover 4 drop, because it's very, very easy to just go ahead and put the outside corners into those blue zones and maybe even back them up. Now, the thing with this particular coverage is that if you guys go out there with the sole purpose being, I'm just going to throw nothing but corners and streaks, this is a great coverage for those tight formations that love that, because when we snap the ball, you've got your check down route, you've got your zones that are perfectly in position on both sidelines, and obviously you can't throw in the flat. So if they want to run a, trips quick flat with a streak in the corner, it's covered, right? Now, if you guys are facing a double Mable coverage, you need to understand that, especially if they aren't playing the deep half over the top, if you guys can buy enough time to get behind the 30-yard depth, especially on the wide side of the field, there's going to be enough room for us to squeeze in this throw. So if I hold this ball long enough and wait for Shannon Sharp, I'm going to be able to throw this ball in over the top of his head. Again, those players are trying to drop to 30, but that's the max depth that they can go to. If your opponent decides to put deep halves over the top, so if they're playing 30s and 5s or 25s and 5s with deep halves over the top, it becomes a little bit tougher. But again, the same premise is going to be that if you can buy enough time in your defense, you might snap the ball, look for your short side corner. Okay, Y is Mabled off. You're still going to be able to throw this ball all the way over the top of a 25 or a 30. They can't get all the way back to the max depth, but you want to make sure that you're throwing those to the wide side of the field. Some players are also going to run Mable coverage and maybe man up a corner route as well. So what do you guys need to do? What are some simple things that you guys can do to attack the Mable coverage? Now, being that this video is a little bit longer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to table that there, because this afternoon I'm going to drop a YouTube short breaking down my favorite thing to do against people that run the double Mable. It is definitely very, very annoying. You guys can find plenty of content on Gridiron Game Plans if you guys can't wait for that short this afternoon. But I am going to be dropping a short this afternoon, helping you guys out with that. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. You guys will get a push noti a little bit later when that video drops. But I appreciate you guys all coming through to check out this video. I hope it helps you out on the defensive side of the ball. I hope you guys understand how to stop flooding concepts a little bit better here. And I'll see you guys a little bit later this afternoon. Until then, this is Zan. Get the lab and good luck.